Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Beth Genly, your host for Action Update. Climate change is a climate emergency, a planetary emergency that affects all of us. So this year, I am interviewing activists and scientists and writers who bring us various aspects of what we need to be doing to combat climate change. Today, I have the honor to speak with Bob Leonard, who is the Chief Content Officer for spaceship.earth.org and co-author of Toward a Finite Earth Economy, the Crew Manual. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Great. I understand you have a pretty interesting story for how you ended up being focused on climate change.
Yeah, I don't know if it's interesting, but it's unique. February 25th, 2009, I was shot during a home invasion.
Holy smoke.
Yeah. The femoral vein and artery in my left leg were severed. I bled out. I was clinically dead for a short period of time. And obviously I made it. Afterwards, it's not uncommon for people who have a brush with death to go on a spiritual journey. And I did, and I should mention who I was at the time. I owned a small marketing agency called Accelerant, spelled A-C-S-E-L-L, so the accent on the cell.
Right.
I thought it was very clever. I came up with that name. But I was that guy. I was interested in my business. I was a TV watching, beer drinking, football fan, average American guy. And after going through the spiritual journey, asking why did they come to my house? Why did they shoot me? It really wasn't necessary. And especially, why did I survive? So, long story short, after it didn't happen immediately, it took a few years, but I came to the conclusion that I'm here for a reason, and that reason is climate change, and I need to use my talents, my skills, my experience to communicate, educate, gently persuade people that we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Wow, that's a pretty intense story. I'm glad you did make it. I'm glad you're here. Spaceship Earth, that's the name of the website that you're Chief Content Officer for. Where did that name come from?
Well, it originates with our Buckminster Fuller. What happened was when I realized I lost the passion for my work. And I thought, well, I want to be in climate change, but how do I make a living? If I'm going to quit my business, I need to make a living. So I asked a few people, the smartest people I knew, how do I make a living in climate change? And one of the people I spoke to was David Houle, the futurist. And coincidentally, he had written this book, This Spaceship Earth, about climate change and about our need to be good stewards of our home, our only home. There's no resupply ship coming. We only have what we have on the planet. And he was launching a nonprofit. So it took a few months, but he launched it and he hired me as the Chief Content Officer, which means I do the website content, the blog posts, the newsletter, the social media, that kind of stuff.
Okay, cool. And so the idea that nobody's coming to resupply in the context of climate change, fill that out for us a little more.
Well, one of the things we talk about in the book, which very few people in the space write about, is population. And there's a very direct correlation between population and CO2 emissions, and CO2 emissions, greenhouse gases. That's why we're experiencing global warming. I lost my train of thought.
Spaceship Earth, no resupply.
Okay, so we've only got this Earth, If you imagine you were on a spaceship and you had enough supplies for a dozen people. Two of those people get together and they start having children, right? Now you've got more mouths to feed. They're consuming oxygen. They're stressing the systems. Mm-hmm. So that's a metaphor that relates to it.
I see. Okay, so basically, there's so many of us that we are now stressing the entire system.
So many of us, and because of our lifestyle, concurrent with the population explosion, was an advance in lifestyle. So when I was a kid, you had one car for the family, right? Today, every person over 16 has a car. There was maybe two TVs in the house. Now everybody's got a television, a laptop, a smartphone. All of those things emit CO2 in their manufacture, and the waste from them when they've gone through their useful life is somewhere on the planet. It doesn't go away. It may go away from the garbage pail in front of your house, but it goes somewhere else. It doesn't disappear.
Right. So your solution, or the piece of the solution that you're proposing, has to do with changing the economy or changing our economic metrics.
Yeah, and working with David for a few years, we had conversations and we came to the conclusion that the root cause is growth economies, economies that require constant growth in order to be healthy, so that the entire society is built. All the advertising that we see, right, that we're exposed to every day. Buy more. Out of money, here's some credit. Buy some more. You remember after 9/11, George W. Bush, President Bush, came out and told the American people, go shopping.
I remember that. I remember how horrified I was at the time that was the solution, when we had such an opportunity to push energy independence. It would have been an amazing opportunity for the entire country to unite behind energy independence and start to look at where else could we get power from.
Right, so and you don't have to be at war all the time.
Yes, and the idea that the solution that would unite us all and keep us all happy and keep us all moving forward was to buy more stuff lacked vision, in my opinion.
We can see it today. That's the powers that be, the status quo, the corporations, the lobbyists that buy the politicians. The entire system needs to change, and that's what the book's about, is taking GDP. GDP is our only metric for measuring the health of this country.
So gross domestic product for people
which is just about money, just about financial transactions. So what if we took that away? Companies are still going to be concerned with profit, but the government doesn't need to be. So what if we take that away and we replace it with metrics that measure the well-being of people, measure the well-being of nature? How would that change things?
Well, measuring the well-being of nature seems long overdue, in my opinion.
Yeah, natural capital is not accounted for. If you have a standing forest of trees, that forest breathes in CO2, sequesters the carbon, breathes out oxygen, which we need. It keeps it prevents landslides. It provides shelter for a diversity of plants and animals. There's a lot of good that it does, but it's worthless in our current version of capitalism. A deregulated version of capitalism is what we have today. If you cut that forest down, turn it into 2x4s, then it's of value.
Right. So there's this classic thing called the tragedy of the commons, when we all are using common resources, but nobody's responsible for shepherding them or what's the word? Husbanding them, stewarding, all those words, yeah. And it sounds like that's part of what you're advocating for, is that we actually steward our resources intelligently.
Yes, and if we do it right, it does not have to be hardship. It does not have to be, we can make the transition without collapse, but it has to be done intelligently, and it has to be done all together. It's all of us or none of us.
So part of what you're arguing for is that we make national changes to how we think about our economy and how we structure our economy for the best good of all of us and our environment, as well as our bottom line.
Right. Yeah. If you can't breathe the air or drink the water, what good is money?
Good point. All right, and on that, we're going to take a short break, and we will be back after this break.
Hello, my name is Michael Nataro, and I was the 2011-2012 Toastmasters International President. And I have a question for you. Where will you be on April 24th and 25th, 2020? Well, I hope that you will join me and scores of other Toastmasters at the District 7 Spring Conference. We are going to have a great time. We will be on the campus of Warner Pacific University in Portland, Oregon. Why do you need to be there? This is the 80th anniversary of District 7. We'll be celebrating 8 decades of helping members become better communicators and leaders. And we need to have you there. I'll be delivering a speech entitled The Call of the Leader, based on my new book. Have you heard the call of the leader in your life? Have you discovered the call of the leader? Embraced the call of the leader? Fulfilled the call of the leader? I'll be talking about all of these things during my speech, and I hope you will join me at the District 7 Spring Conference. See you there.
Welcome to an opportunity to take the next step of your professional speaking journey. I want you to be honest with yourself. Have you ever wished you were a star in a television show? Or at an event where the media is interviewing bystanders and you are wanting to be picked to give your opinion of the event? Or even in the smallest sense, you're at a sports game and secretly hope that your smiling face would appear on that big jumbo screen TV. But the jumbo screen always finds the fans with the painted faces. And you think to yourself, maybe next time. Well, what if I can offer you a chance to be on TV? Would you take it? That is what I want to offer you now. I'm Dottie Love, Associate TV Producer and Director. Toastmasters International is one of the largest organizations whose mission is to help improve your speaking skills. And District 7 is expanding your opportunities to do speaking via television. We have 4 fully equipped television studios and TV Toastmaster broadcasts to over 500,000 homes, plus a YouTube channel. Who knew? We want to invite you to take advantage of using media and television, either in front or behind the scenes. Let me share a few options that you have. First, you can be a guest on a show. Highlight your business or hobby or your community interest. Anything you're passionate about. Be a featured guest. Secondly, you can train to be a host on an ongoing TV segment. We will train you for that. Third, what about creating your own talk show? We will train you for that as well and give you access to a community media studio to do just that. Or lastly, be behind the scenes, either running a camera or editing shows. You decide which avenue is best for you, and our TV Toastmasters team will help you to navigate to get the most out of your media experience. Personally, I've done them all. I started as a guest, went to hosting, up to directing my own TV show. I don't tell you this to impress you. I tell you this to impress upon you that your personal growth with Toastmasters is directly related to what you take advantage of. And I encourage you to be bold in looking for opportunities to stretch and grow. If this intrigues you, or if you have club members who you think that might be interested in this, please contact us here at TV Toastmasters. I'm Dottie Love, and you can reach me or any of us in the TV Toastmasters family at the contact information at the bottom of the screen.
Welcome back to Action Update. I'm Beth Genly, your host, and we're talking this evening with Bob Leonard, Chief Content Officer for spaceshipearth.org and co-author of Toward a Finite Earth Economy. And Bob, the finite Earth economy was what we were talking about before the break. And we talked about changing the metrics, changing GDP to a set of metrics that would really look at the health of our entire environment and not just profit. What else would need to shift? I remember you talking about, what's the word?
David, prior to moving to a finite Earth economy,
Yes.
David, for the Spaceship Earth, the book, came up with a concept called crew consciousness. And that means changing how you think about the way you live on the planet, evolving from being passive passengers on the planet to being active crew. So you're always thinking about how could this be done better? How could we be more sustainable? Unfortunately, I think at this point, sustainable is almost a legacy term. That at this point, we need to talk about regeneration.
Right. So everything from how you heat your house and what car you drive to what politicians you vote for and what policies you lobby for.
Yeah.
And how you run your company.
Yeah, it's personally the recycle, the stuff we do on an individual level, that's fine, but that is not going to turn the ship. That is not going to, it needs to be done in government, it needs to be done at the corporate level, and more and more and more lately, at Davos last month, billionaires, corporate leaders are saying, this isn't working. This system that we've got is causing not only climate change, but a number of other societal woes, like income inequality, social justice, many, many issues. So we need to reinvent capitalism. And capitalism itself is neither good nor bad. It's a system. And it's good, it's very good at innovation, very helpful for innovation, but the version of we have now is deregulated. So there are no controls on it. So the money, trickle down economics, well, guess what? It doesn't trickle down. It trickles up and it stays there. So they are beginning, not all of them, but a lot of them. I have a quote in a presentation I give from, I think his name is Poulos. He's the CEO of the gigantic multinational consumer product goods corporation, Unilever. And he's saying, we're not going to have customers. It's not a good business decision to kill your customer. Now he probably didn't say it exactly that way, I'm paraphrasing, but that's the message. He gets it. But how do you change? So, you get your Greta Thunbergs, the kids get it. It's the status quo, the people in power, I got mine and I don't want to change, I want to keep mine.
One of the things that I've been struck by in, say, the arguments about the limits on miles per gallon for cars is that individual car companies, as vast as they are, don't want to make those changes because they feel like they will be disadvantaged in the market. They want the rules to be the same for all of them.
Yes,
that
well,
we all have to get this many miles per gallon or go to
Sure.
electric vehicles
If you're
or
running a
whatever.
business, you want certainty. You want
Right.
to know in 5 years, what do I have to do? Not the president's going to come in and change all the rules, and maybe that'll last, maybe it won't. You know, uncertainty is the enemy of a CEO.
Yes, gotcha. And so when we're talking about regulation, we're talking about creating certainty for an entire industry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we can all get together and say, okay, I know what the rules of the game are. Let's go. Game on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. You also mention in your book, you talk about public service or youth service, a year of service or 2 years of service. What is your vision for that in this new economy?
Well, you've got all this energy. I mentioned that the kids get it and Greta Thunberg. So why not give them an outlet for that youthful energy, right? Why not, like in the WPA during the Depression, this was created, and I'm not going to remember the name of it, but young people were put to work reforesting.
The Conservation Corps.
Conservation Corps.
Yeah.
So why not do that even on a larger scale? Some, depending on the country, you know, hopefully we could do this internationally. Depending on the country, they might be cleaning the plastic off of beaches, or they might be detoxifying streams, or they might be reforesting, planting trees. There's a lot of different things they could be doing while learning at the same time all these kinds of skills that perhaps become their careers. And also a byproduct could be that they are, and they would be given housing, and they would be given a minimum wage. And then also, when they're done, given free education, like the GI Bill. They could go to university, or they could go to trade school, or whatever it is they want to do. But they would also get exposed to other people, different people, like almost like an exchange program. They might go to a different country to do this work. And it's been my personal experience that when you are exposed, when you are working with or around people who are different from the people in your hometown, maybe, you lose the fear of the other. Oh, they're just people. They have the same concerns and problems and, aspirations as I do. They're just people.
Gotcha. All right. We just have a few more minutes. I want to give you a little time to talk about the 3 books that you would recommend to our viewers to follow up and learn more.
Okay, well, besides...
We'll get to yours too.
Okay. David's book, The Spaceship Earth. It's a good primer on what is happening with the planet. Drawdown, edited by Paul Hawken. 100 solutions, the top 100 solutions to reducing CO2 in the atmosphere, drawing it down in many different ways.
And my understanding from looking at that one is that a lot of those are existing technologies that are ready to go.
Yeah, it can be very simple stuff. It can be, if you take 2 of them, one is educating girls, and I use that term deliberately. That's the term that they use because they're talking about schoolgirls, they're talking about young girls, educating them. Wherever that happens on the planet, those girls are more independent, more able to take care of themselves as they grow older, less dependent on men, and they have fewer children. And family planning. As I mentioned before about the population 2.1 children per woman replaces the existing population. So if we can get that down, then gradually over time the population will shrink to something that's manageable.
Okay, so that's drawdown. So we've got Spaceship Earth and drawdown, and your third one.
Oh gosh. Collapse.
Collapse by Jared Diamond.
Collapse by Jared Diamond. Yes, I read that a while ago, and it's a great book. He draws he tells many stories about many civilizations that collapsed, and almost always for the same reasons. They're byproducts of their success, overpopulation and resource depletion. Now, they're in those Easter Island, in those civilizations, there are islands, or there are a specific area, specific civilization, just one part of the world. Today, it's the entire world.
Right. Okay, so if people want to learn more about this Spaceship Earth or your book, where would they go?
Well, there's two websites. There's thisspaceshipearth.org, and there is finiteeartheconomy.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and they can find out more about your book there, and they can read a lot of the content that you have generated.
That I have written.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having
I'm very
me.
excited for the work that you do.
Oh, I hope it has some effect.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you all for joining us. I'm Beth Genly, your host, and we'll be back with more guests on TV Toastmasters, and I'll be back next month with another guest for Action Update, looking at the climate emergency.